Hi, I'm Cooper Hamilton, 21-year-old ex-professional athlete. Welcome to the Fitness and Lifestyle Podcast.
Welcome to the Fitness and Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Kennedy, and I'm here to help you become the very best version of yourself. Cooper, welcome to the podcast, brother. Very, very grateful to have you in here today, man. We were lucky enough to connect a couple of weeks ago for the first time, and I could have sat there and chatted with you all day. I feel like we got along really well straight away, and I'm sure we'll touch on this many times in the chat today, brother, but even in our very brief interaction so far, you seem like an incredible human, and I'm keen to unpack it today, brother, but welcome to the show.
I appreciate those kind words. Exact same goes straight back to you. I think it was Dice that connected us, Dice Heppel.
Yep.
Yeah, so
another great man.
Very, very similar man to you. So I think that's why we hit it off, because Dice and I hit it off really well. So pleasure to be here and can't wait to get chatting.
Beautiful, brother. Let's unpack it. So as I just mentioned, we only met the other week and we had a pretty good in-depth chat, a bit about yourself and not necessarily just about what you're doing today, but what's kind of led to this point. So I'm keen to kind of take it back a little bit to the day that you were lining up for your first game of AFL. I'd love to know what was going through the mind the night before and on game day.
That is winding it back. I mean, it's actually not that long ago, is it? Like,
It's not that long ago.
I'm only 21. I was 18 when it happened, but it feels like a lot's happened in between that.
Yeah.
First game, that was, I think it was round 7, 2022 against Adelaide at Adelaide Oval. Absolute whirlwind of a week and everything. Like, you could imagine just everything, messages from everyone, just so overwhelmed with emotions and everything. But yeah, I went over to Adelaide and was staying in the hotel at Adelaide pre-game. Don't remember anything of that. All I can really remember is the day of the game when I'm very close with Phil Davis, a stalwart at GWS Giants. And I remember calling him on the day of the game and just being like, oh, Phil, like, I love you so much. He wasn't there at the time. And I was like, I need to talk to somebody that understands what's going on. And obviously there's plenty of people that are like that, but he was like my father figure at the club. And other than that, pre-game, I don't remember much at all. Even during the game, I don't remember much. Probably the only brief memory of the game is my first or second touch. I got the ball, went to kick a switch across the ground and absolutely shanked it. And I just remember thinking, oh, geez, I hope I get another kick. That was a shocker. That's not exactly a highlight for your first game.
Had you played in front of big crowds prior to that first game of AFL?
Oh, geez. The biggest crowd would have been maybe a couple thousand in a local senior grand final when I was like 14, 15 years old. So
yeah, country footy.
Yeah, country footy, exactly.
Best crowds.
It's very vocal crowds, very passionate crowds.
Very much so.
Even like on the weekend that was exactly like that. But yeah, I don't remember too much, to be fair. I remember going out that night. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Had all my family, my friends. It was all incredible, that sort of stuff. But very limited memory of the whole thing altogether.
I'm keen to understand, prior to being in the AFL, I would imagine this is a pretty straightforward answer, but what was the definition of success for you? Like, in your eyes, what was going to allow you to feel like, fuck, I've made it and this is success?
It probably is one of those things that always changes. Like, it's like you always set a goal, and once you achieve that goal, you expect to be so fulfilled, but then it's like you realise that the chase is the fulfilling bit. So you get to that goal and then you go, okay, what's next type thing. So I think success changed a lot throughout my childhood, really. Like, success when I was really, really young was playing a senior game for my local football club. I achieved that, and then it was making the rep squad, and then so on and keep going, representing my country, which I was lucky enough to do. And then ultimately, like, when you're a kid, when you grow up, you want to be an AFL player. Or that's what it's like for me and most of my mates growing up. So once I got drafted to the Giants, that was the success, and that was, I've achieved everything I want in life. But then there's that, I want to play a game. You play your game, I want to play 100 games. I didn't achieve the 100 games. So am I a failure? I don't think so, but
not at all.
At the end of the day, like, your goals change a lot like I'm sure you had many goals when you were growing up that you realized you are glad you didn't achieve. Or I'm not saying
100%.
Or I'm not saying I'm glad I didn't achieve playing 100 games, but I've got different goals now that I now strive towards. And my definition of success, I guess, is transforming a lot as I go through life now.
We're going to come back to that, the current definition of success for you. Love for you to talk through we talk about the highs and lows, or you hear a lot about the highs and lows as an athlete or just in any industry really. Having experienced what I would imagine is such a high of that first game and being in the AFL and, achieving like this childhood dream, give us some insight into like what went, what was like internally for you when you kind of then had to navigate through, a couple of years of a lot of adversity. And for the listeners as well, would love for you to talk a little bit about, what that adversity was in regards to the injuries and some of those setbacks.
Yeah, well, like you said, the highs are highs, like especially in the AFL system, it's a genuine roller coaster ride. So you can be up here, oh, this is awesome, best thing ever, which I was for a long period of time there. It was my dream. I was living my dream. Nothing was going wrong. And then my second season, I played first 4 games of AFL and I come down with a navicular stress fracture in my foot. So essentially I walked into the club on a random Monday after a game and came out on crutches and in a moon boot and got told that my season was done. And
going into the club, was that even in your mind? Were you pretty certain it was that serious or not really?
Well, no, I'd been playing with a lot of like pain in my foot, and I just assumed that I might have to have a couple of weeks off. That sucks because I'll lose my spot at the side for now. But did I think that I'd be done for the season, and especially in April? No, not a chance. I expected to just come back and play. Well, you're naive. So I was like, I'll earn my spot back in the side and play the rest of the year in the AFL, whatever. But I remember being in tears, like in the car, as soon as I heard that. Like I put on a brave face it's just what people do. You put on a brave face. It's like, I'm fine or whatever. And then I remember going to the car, calling mum, calling dad, sort of holding back tears. And then we just broke down on the drive home. And that sort of started, I guess, I definitely changed from there onwards. Because as a kid, all I controlled was, I'm a very controlling person. I've been told that by, psychs that I've seen as well, that I just love to have control over things.
Yep.
And so as soon as football wasn't there for me to control, or I couldn't go and do training and stuff like that.
It was the unknown and the uncertainty.
Yeah, I was just looking for the next thing. And I hadn't ever dealt with an injury that serious that would keep me out for an extended period of time. And that's when I probably hit my lowest point. Over a period of time, it fluctuated. I was doing good, doing bad, but certainly from then onwards, I completely changed and I became very much more insular. Cut myself off from a lot of people and sort of went to a bit of a poor me, almost like a
bit of a victim.
Yeah, victim.
Yep.
Yeah, and then sort of I transitioned out of that period pretty quickly, and then you go into that sort of that redemption arc type period where you villain arc, and you really dial in, and that's when I just obsessed over doing everything I could away from football to set myself up.
Yep.
So I went down the whole path of food, gym, getting as big as possible, leaning down, coming back as just like the most Greek goddess physique, which doesn't actually translate to playing better football, funny enough.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help with healing your foot, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
That was, it was about the whole injury lasted, I'd say about 19, 20 months and culminated into me getting surgery after 14 months of dealing with it. I finally got surgery in my third year and then wasn't offered a contract and pretty much had to, I guess, rehab away from, I would get delisted and then rehabbed down here in Melbourne off an AFL list, that's a difficult thing to do.
Brutal,
when you go from having all of those resources laid out for you and then you essentially...
And clarity on what's next too.
Exactly, yeah, the clarity. That's like the uncertainty when I was delisted was pretty damning. It still is now. No one's comfortable with not knowing what's next.
Of course.
And that hit me like a ton of bricks, but I mean, I've got a great support network, family, friends, and Carlton VFL program really helped me out. And
Great.
now I'd say there's much more direction in my life, but still I've got no idea what's coming next. So it's crazy.
Mate, there's so much stuff I want to touch on off the back of what you've just said. How do you feel now that your ability to deal with uncertainty is any better or different to what it was back then? I would imagine so, but how do you kind of sit with that feeling now in comparison to a few years back?
Yeah, I'd say I guess it's just a part of maturing and getting older and realizing that not everybody has it figured out. I would say
not many people do, brother.
Nah, when we spoke about this when we caught up a couple of weeks back, I've found that once I got delisted and saw that uncertainty popped up, like it's the first time in my life that I hadn't had everything laid out. So growing up, going to school, you know where you got to be, you know that next year you're going to school. There was about a 3-week period when school finished between last exam and the draft. And so there was a 3-week period where essentially my life was a little bit up in the air for the first time. And then I was drafted and I was straight into a program, knew where I had to be, blah, blah, blah. And then I guess once I was delisted, I was like, okay, shit, I've got to figure life out now. And that's when I picked up a camera and started documenting that journey. The amount of people that reached out and I've had conversations with, and they just go like, look, you're young and I'm 30, 40, 50, even like older, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Like there's so much that I guess I take for granted with my situation sometimes. And then I just have to level myself and just be like, there's so many people going through the same thing or have been through the same thing as you, and they made it out fine. Like just embrace, I guess, having spare time and stuff like that, and just figure out that every day if you can get up and get out of bed and I guess do something, that's a step forward in the right direction. And that's good enough for me at the moment.
We spoke a lot when we caught up the other week about identity, and I want to spend a bit of time touching on that. But before we dive too much into it, prior to a lot of this adversity, how would you describe yourself as a person, or like what if any, I mean, it sounds like, I don't know how to articulate this question well, but what, if anything, did you really value about yourself as a person outside of being an athlete and a footballer prior to all of this adversity? So when you're on that upward trajectory, you're in school, you get drafted, you're starting to see a lot of the success and you're putting in the work and reaping the reward for it.
Yep.
That typically more often than not leads to attaching your identity to what you do and not necessarily who you are. So do you feel like you had much self-awareness around Cooper as a person then?
Probably not. I guess, especially in my circumstances, I grew up, for context, I grew up with a twin brother and then 2 more older brothers. And we grew up in a small community, Colburn township of 100 people, wider community, probably a couple more hundred. And on a farm out there, we were sort of always labelled as the football kids or like the sporty kids. And when you're labelled as that growing up as a kid, it's pretty easy to just think, I only play footy or I only do sports. And I didn't hate that. I never really thought anything else different, to be honest. Like every weekend mum and dad were taking us to sport. So I wouldn't say I had very much, I guess, self-awareness of who I was as a person, because I was just, like I said, I'm a controlling person. I was just obsessed over my sport. So it probably took me getting injured and going through what I've been through to realize that like there's so much more to life than football. Like it's just that even if you look at a professional athlete, like their career is going to go for 10, 15 years if they're lucky at max. And
there's a lot more life left.
The average life expectancy is 75 plus 80 years. Like that is such a minuscule part of your life. Yet we attach so much of our self-worth to our performance on the weekend or how we're training. It's an incredibly toxic way to live. But just people do it. Like I did it, and there's still times where I get caught doing so. And it's just, you just have to bring yourself back to that, I guess, having that self-awareness and that perspective of just like, we're all doing life for the first time, and it's not all about your sport. It's just, if you're a good quality human being, then that's ultimately the main goal for anybody, or for me especially.
100%, man. And I think, for those that are watching and listening too, like, you don't even have to be a professional athlete to get caught in this trap. You see it everywhere, whether it be careers, whether it be materialistic things, like whether it be money or possessions, whether it be relationship. That's a massive one when people kind of lose sight of their worth in a relationship and attach it to their partner. And if and when that no longer works out, people have no idea who they are or have no value in themselves. To play any sport at the highest level, or again, doesn't even need to be sport, in any industry, to reach the highest level, you obviously need to be extremely hardworking and very committed to what you do, and that's obvious within yourself. You mentioned before about the nutrition and around the body composition and that kind of body image side of things. We spoke about the fact that I completely can relate to the experience you had, because I spent a number of years in a very similar headspace and cycle of overtraining, undereating, being obsessive about every single possible detail, and much like you've articulated today, like just feeling the need for control. And I think if you take it all the way, like if you peel all the way the layers back, it's around wanting to be okay, and it's around wanting to feel safe and whatnot. And so we control everything we can to make sure that there is nothing that can hurt us, right? From an ego level, I guess you could say. But the experience itself is really fucking hard to get out of when you're in it. And it's not as simple, and I'm certain that there's many people listening to the show today, to whatever degree, have experienced it to some point. And it is challenging to just completely change your beliefs and completely change your habits and snap out of it, I guess you could say. I've spoken about it in length on the show about my kind of journey out of it, but I'd love for you to give the audience a bit of insight into what it was like in it, and I guess what's kind of helped you navigate out of it. And again, something you've always got to be conscious of, and it's very easy to slip back into those patterns. But I think you've obviously done a really good job of navigating through it. So I'm keen to hear what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, well, like I said, when I got injured, it was looking for the controllables and something that I could just take over, and that was food. And as we talked about, we both had similar, I guess, stories with how we obsessed over our food and what have you. And mine was pretty much, so I got injured playing as a wingman at 90 kilograms, and I'm 6 foot on the knocker. I'm definitely 6 foot also, so just clarify that. But
not just Wikipedia 6 foot.
Actually, I think they got me 185, so I'll take that. But I was looking for what I could control, because I couldn't control my football, and that was what I was eating and how I looked. And essentially I thought that if I came back shredded, I'd look like an AFL player, I'd play better football. It's so far away from what was actually true, because people just have different bodies and their bodies operate at a different level of, I guess, fat or whatever you want to say.
Yep.
But I went down the calorie tracking and the macro tracking and everything, and I lost, what was it, about 12 kilos in space of 6 or 7, 8 weeks. And that, as some people might know, like, I wasn't very fat at the time either, so that's incredibly unhealthy, especially in the process of getting over
in such a short period of time too.
Yeah, and when you're trying to repair a stress fracture, undereating is probably the worst thing you could do. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, I could look back and probably say that I guess, made myself re-injure my foot, and that's a pretty damning thing to hear, like, to admit to yourself, or the ifs and buts. How in hindsight's a funny thing. But I went down that path, and like I said, completely changed me as a person. I became very insular. I wouldn't go out for drinks or dinner with my family or friends, just because I wanted to track everything that was going in my body. I wouldn't eat anything if I didn't cook it myself. I'd just religiously track absolutely everything. And it's just such a consuming thing. Like, you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about food. You go to bed and you're thinking about food. And when you're under eating, you have just shocking mood. I was under eating on, like, fats, and that just plays with your hormones. Yeah. And it's I wouldn't say that I've completely recovered from it, and I don't think I ever will, because once you figure out what a calorie is, it's very hard to forget what a calorie is, and it's very hard to go back to that process of just eating food. But I certainly am in a much better place than what I was, because it consumed my life for a long period there too. I'd say for a good 2 years I was, I guess, stuck. Not necessarily stuck, but just obsessive over it. And as an athlete, as you could probably attest to as well, you mask it with being just the ultimate professional. And you say, oh, I'm just looking after my body. This is
discipline.
Yeah, discipline, exactly. So like you're just controlling everything you can, and it quickly becomes an unhealthy habit. And that's what happened to me. But I guess what I did in terms of getting over it was just seeking help and talking to, when you find people that have been through the same thing and can help you put some things into practice, that's amazing. And when you finally admit to yourself and to somebody else that you have a problem, it is one of the most liberating feelings.
Yeah.
And it feels like a genuine weight off the shoulders. And essentially that was for me. I told my parents that I had a pretty bad, I guess, relationship with food, and I was struggling a little bit, and they helped me a lot with that.
Yep.
But it's a lot easier when you get the advice from people of just eat something.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to say, like a lot easier.
You have to be ready to hear it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I admitted it to myself a long time before I actually put things into practice to change it. And once I finally did start to change it and loosen my grip a little bit more, I realized my quality of life increased dramatically. And I was just feeling so much better, more energized. And the amazing thing is, once you actually start eating more, you start seeing the change in your body as well. Yeah. And you might even look a bit better as well.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the like scariest things for me, is I just always thought if I eat a little bit less, then I'm just going to look amazing. And it gets to the point where that doesn't actually happen anymore.
Starts working against you.
Yeah. And your body just starts to shut down. And
yeah.
I honestly I wish I could help people who are in a similar situation, just say, this is exactly how I fixed it, and do this and it'll fix. But at the end of the day, it's a long process. Like there's no one size fits all, and there's no magic pill to say, oh, I wish I could have got hypnotized and just been like, forget what a calorie is or something like that. But it's not how it works. It's a very long process, a very difficult process. But the sooner you can admit it to yourself and admit it to other people, I think that's your first step into, I guess, on the road to essentially recovery.
Yeah. And we, on the show, I talk a lot about beliefs, and I think, one of the positive things, as much as the process is a lengthy process, one of the really positive things is that once you start seeing evidence to suggest the exact opposite of a belief you've had for a long period of time, it becomes a lot easier to stick the path and to keep pushing down that path, because you will see that evidence. And I think that's that moment where you kind of like, fuck, a lot of this shit that I've been worried about was never a thing. It was just something that I was like over obsessive about, and I'm actually seeing the exact opposite of what I thought was going to happen. And you raised a couple of really good points too, I think, for any athlete, but particularly junior athletes and even for like parents as well. Your body composition looking like a fucking shredded Greek god as an athlete is pretty fucking irrelevant.
Yep.
Majority of the time, right? And a lot of the time it'll work against you. And I think that's not to say that you shouldn't be disciplined and that you shouldn't try and be in great shape and whatnot, but you've actually got to look at what effect is it having, and is that any benefit to what I'm trying to do? And if you're an AFL footballer, if you're basketball, it doesn't matter what sport, is it actually going to help or work against you?
Yep.
And I think that also comes along with, this is a whole conversation in itself, comes along as well with like expectation of whether it be the sporting clubs, whether it be the coaches, the staff in the club, of like really pushing, something like skin folds, which I think, has its place to an extent, but at the same time, AFL football is not a bodybuilding show, and it really doesn't fucking matter if you're out there performing and you're loving your football or whatever sport, and you're recovering and you're happy and you're healthy. It's like, that's the most important thing. There's always plenty of time to get absolutely shredded if you really need to at some point in time. But I want to touch on the relationship with your brother, with your twin brother, because we spoke about this a little bit too. I'd love for you to share a bit about what that relationship was like prior to, a lot of this adversity and I guess the blessing of the adversity, which has led to the relationship today.
Yeah, this very, very funny relationship. A little shout out to Hugh, my twin brother. So that's his name for a little bit of context there. But yeah, we grew up still close, very close. But when you're growing up in a small community town, and he and I were both we both loved football, lived and breathed football. It's very quick to compare yourself to each other. And I think early on, especially, we were always categorized as the twins. So we never were really Hugh and Cooper. We were the twins. And you don't realize until now that that's actually quite a destructive thing. Or it can be taken two ways. A lot of the time we probably took it as a comparison thing and who's better. But we probably grew up at very different or in very different ways in terms of he was very much a man child. So he matured a lot faster than I did.
Yeah.
So I was on the back foot quite early. He was always the dominant footballer and I always compared myself to his football, and it was always Hugh. And then I even copped the nickname for a fair while there, and I still cop it like every now and then for just a bit of a laugh, but I got called the Shadow for a while there, and it sort of fueled me in a little bit of a way that I was like, I don't want to be the Shadow. That hurts me. And I guess that drove me a little bit, but now looking back now, it's also a little bit destructive calling someone the Shadow. Like,
yeah, of course.
Doesn't do great things for their mentals, but I never thought about it that way at the time. But yeah, growing up, it was always comparing each other, and we'd play football games, and I'd always be seeing how I went, how he went. I'd always celebrate his successes, but also comparatively, I'd be like, oh, I want to do better than him type thing. And essentially came down to we both played in all the rep squads together, and then I got drafted and unfortunately he didn't. So that was an incredibly bittersweet moment when you get to realise your dream and your twin brother doesn't. So he was incredible throughout that entire process.
I was going to say, what did that kind of do to the relationship at the time?
Oh, I wouldn't say it damaged the relationship at all, but probably selfishly by me, I just didn't even think about it. I moved up to Sydney in 2-3 days and I was living my life in Sydney. And looking back on that, I didn't check in on him near enough, if at all, to be fair, because I was seeing all this new stuff and just got carried away with life. And he was sort of stuck here being like, what am I supposed to do now? So that's something that I regret definitely, is not sort of checking in on him more. And I guess that entire year after, so my first year in the AFL, I would speak to him once a week, once a fortnight. And I was just living this life, having a great time. This is awesome. And then fast forward my second year, I got injured and was out for the year. And funny enough, my very last game I played was gather round against Hawthorn at Adelaide. And that day he actually watched me from a hospital bed because he had major back surgery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he had stretch fractures on either side of his spine and had a cage put around his spine. And
shit.
I can't remember all the details. He's told me about 10 times. I can't remember any of the details. So I'm a good brother like that. But yeah, so that put him out of the game for 2 years. So you can imagine he always still had that dream of, I want to play AFL football. And then he has something like that happen. It's like, so mate, you got to find something else because you've got this extended period out. And I mean, you can still make it, but I guess it's going to take this next 2 years of finding out.
Yeah, the road's just gotten a lot harder.
Yeah, exactly. And
so ironically, you were pretty similarly both going through a very same experience to some extent.
Exactly. So twins, that whole thing happened. And I guess that's when we became much closer because I became very much more insular and he was not being able to do much. So we actually talked off all the time. Like he'd come up and visit me a lot and I wouldn't say repaired our relationship, but just grew a lot closer. And I look back on everything that we've been through over the past couple of years and just, I wouldn't change it for the world because the relationship I've got with him, he's my best friend.
That's awesome, brother.
To say something like I'm close with all my brothers, but there's, I guess, a bond with your twin that you can't really explain unless you have a twin. It's so even now we live together and I'd call him 2-3 times a day just because I'd be like, oh, what's up? What are you doing? Even though I'm going to see him that night and even though I see him in the morning, I can't quite explain how much different our relationship is now compared to what it used to be. Because I don't know, I feel like a lot of people when they're growing up dislike their siblings but love them.
I get you.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're always comparing yourselves to them and you're always like, oh, I hate you. You're always fighting or something like that. Like we used to fight like crazy. And
you take the relationship for granted.
Exactly. And you get to a point you go, oh, actually this guy's not bad. I quite like this bloke. He's actually all right. It's like this one day and it just goes like flick switch. And yeah, I'd say it is the best thing that's ever happened. And with all my brothers as well, I'm so much closer with all of them. I can call them any time of the day and they'll pick up the phone. Mum and dad also as well. Like incredibly grateful and lucky to have the family that I do and the support network that I do. But yeah, that twin connection is quite special.
Unreal, brother. That's so good. What do you feel like is if you can pinpoint it, there might be a few of these, but what's a major belief that has shifted like drastically from prior to, wrapping up your career in the AFL to this current day?
A belief. Well, this is actually a really difficult one. I'd probably have to go to just attaching yourself to I'm going to say occupation, not even just athlete, but attaching your self-worth to your occupation.
To what you do.
Yeah, to what you do. I just think it's a very difficult way to live because if things aren't going right, then you take all that baggage home with you at the end of the day. Like there's 24 hours in a day, you might be working for 8 of them. If work's not going great, you got 2/3 of your day that are shit because that 1/3 wasn't great. I just think it's opened my eyes to a lot more outside of what I'm doing in life. Like I sort of feel like I'm going a bit of a ramble. I'm trying to make this up in my head, but I value different things now. Whereas I previously valued like my performance on the weekend or how I was training or something like that. Now I realize the true things that really do matter to me. It's my family, my friends, my relationships around that. That's probably the biggest thing is I was much more selfish. And I mean, to an extent, you got to be selfish to be, or to make something or build it. You'd know exactly how.
Yeah, I get you.
And a lot of people listening would probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But
I think it's important for you as well, and not just for you, obviously for everyone, but it's super important to be able to look at that and not feel, and there shouldn't be any shame attached to it.
Yeah.
Because it's a very organic and natural progression in life, particularly when you are pursuing something like that. Like the reality is most people who reach the top of their game in anything are selfish.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's I'm not even necessarily saying that as a bad thing.
No, not
I
at
think
all.
like that's required a lot of the time. And I think more often than not, you do reach a stage where you've been so oblivious to that as an actual thing until you're not.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, but as I said, I hope for yourself anyway that you're not carrying any like shame or heaviness around that, because it also doesn't mean something about you.
Yeah, I think probably a better way for me to put it is the balance associated, because I have no doubt that I'm still a selfish person. When I want to do something, I'm going to do it. And I'll probably go into a space where I become so passionate about one thing, similar to football, and I will dive headfirst into that and become an incredibly selfish person just because I'm so driven, like we said, controlling. But I think the biggest thing that I've learnt is just the ability to have that balance and switch on and off.
Yep.
I think that's the healthiest part is I realize that my family is so important to me and I can balance my work life essentially. That's probably the biggest thing I've realized is probably the best for my mental health, and it just makes me feel much better. That's probably a better way to frame it in terms of that stuff.
On the topic of mental health.
Yep.
Are there any kind of daily practices or habits? I often refer to them on the show and with my clients as anchors. Very much like an anchor on a boat. Like when you don't have the anchor down, you start drifting. Are there any daily practices or habits that you kind of are pretty consistent with at the moment that you feel have benefited you?
Yeah, definitely. Like being an ex-athlete, like movement and exercise is just, it's an essential for me. Whether I want to do it or not, I know that once I'm done that, I'm feeling so much better.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest thing. But I just like to have a structure and a routine. So if I can go to bed knowing what I'm going to do the next day, that's the best thing for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's just faking a lot of things to make myself busy and just putting blocks in of, I'm going for a walk here, I'll walk to the gym to do this, that's probably the biggest anchor for me. I don't want to go to bed and be like, I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow, because that's just, I go to bed, I don't have good sleep because I'm thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? If I can go to bed and just have set out already for me, not necessarily I don't have to write it down, but be like, okay, I'm going to be doing this, this, and this. Just have a couple of things I'm going to tick off, and that does me for the day.
Yep.
Whether it's something as basic as I'm going to go to a cafe and get a coffee, or I'm going to call this person, or do my washing.
Yep.
Like if I can tick off a couple of tasks for the day, at least I get to the end of the day and I go, okay, I've accomplished something. I've done something. I don't know whether you've got some.
I think I couldn't agree more. I talk about this a lot. I was actually speaking about it with a client earlier today. We were talking, I've talked on the show about what I think is really important to utilize something like a Google Calendar. I think maybe we even talked about it last time.
Yeah.
But yeah, not for the intention of being like military grade discipline of like every second of the day, but it's almost just to remove the decision fatigue, which I think so often people spend so much of their energy on the same decisions day in, day out, whether it's what the fuck you want to wear, whether it's what you're going to eat, what time you're going to train, if you're going to train, are you going to do this? It's like the less decisions you can make per day, the better. The more of that mental energy or the capacity you can put towards the shit that actually matters. So there's that aspect of it. And as you said, it's the feeling of accomplishment and productivity and, and the clarity of just like direction. So you're not sitting in this level of uncertainty and resistance. But I talked about with the client this morning, the beginning of all the lockdowns, like I just had a shoulder reconstruction and then we went in, like the week I got out, I think we went into the first lockdown. And so I wasn't working, wasn't even really allowed to go for a walk. Danielle was managing one of their cafes, and so she was out all day. And my mental health was shit.
Yep.
Like in terms of what I did throughout the day, I was probably somewhat making myself busy, but it was all just pointless shit.
Yep.
Well, not even pointless shit, but like there was just no real direction or clarity with any of it. It was just like, I feel like I should be doing something. I'm going to go and do this. But then it'd almost create like that negative feedback loop because you're like, I'm not even actually fucking achieving anything here. Yeah. And so I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks into that recovery, I was like, all right, I'm going to start just structuring my day similar to what you said before. I'd structure the time I was going to have meals, like when I was going to meditate, train, call a friend or family, like a work block here, content block, whatever. And even if like on paper I didn't really achieve anything that drastic for the day, like I'd put my head on the pillow at night and feel productive and feel like I was just in building momentum.
Yep.
And so, I couldn't agree more. I think just having that clarity on, and it's not to remove, I think what I'm going to quickly say as well, it's not to remove the uncertainty and the unknown, because I think I'm hoping, I'm keen to hear your opinion on this, but I think in time, particularly when you come from feeling like you need to have control on things, you begin to learn that like uncertainty and the unknown can actually be a really good thing. And if anything is necessary for new things to feel like to land.
Yeah.
And you need to give yourself that capacity to even receive something new.
Yeah.
Which can be challenging, but anyway, I've just rambled a bit there. I couldn't agree more though. I think that having that structure is so important. And even in terms of like success in anything that you do, it's like typically what gets scheduled gets done.
Yeah.
I remember one of my coaches, I think it was one of my coaches said to me once, like, they're like, show me your calendar, and I can tell straight away whether or not like you're legitimately serious about the goals that you said you've got, or like the level of success that you want to have. And so couldn't agree more.
No, I think to just add on to that, it's a little bit of like accountability to yourself as well. In terms of that goal, like if you are serious about your goal and you structure it like that, like if I'm always at night really full of energy and like my mood's up and everything. So if I schedule everything in for the next day, or I say I'm going to do all this sort of stuff, it's my little bit of being accountable, because in the morning I'm like, I really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But I've got to do it. Yeah,
man. And for those that listen to the show, you've heard me say this probably a million times this year, but I think just on the topic of what we're talking about right now, I often talk about the fact that we have to embody like the future self, operate from the frequency of what you want being done. And so it's largely less to do with like, what is it that I need to do? And it's more so who do I need to become? Yeah. And so I think when you're looking at, on this topic of scheduling your day, it's like, okay, well, my reality at the moment may not necessarily look the way that I want it to look, right? But if it did, what would my day look like? Yeah. And how can I start operating from that frequency so that it starts to make sense that these things I'm saying that I want are going to come to fruition? I think in particular, when you've had a period of time that you have had to face adversity, or it is a bit challenging, or it does feel like everything around you is just fucking burnt to the ground. Yeah. It's so easy to stay stuck in just a reaction to how that shit is. Yeah. And when you just continue to react to how things are, the things that are the way they are stay the fucking way they are. Yeah. They stay the same. They're just recreating the same cycle over and over again. And so, and to your point, maybe doing it the night before, I think that's really powerful too, because again, you just have to understand yourself. Yeah. A little bit, right? If you know that every fucking morning when you wake up, it takes a little bit to shift that state, it would make sense to map it out the night before and wake up in the morning and just go, cool, like this is who I said I need to be and who I want to be. It's time to fucking show up and execute. Yeah, I think that's really powerful what you said there. It's sort of building backwards from the person that you want to be. So if you envision yourself doing this, if I'm doing that, I know exactly what I'd be achieving day to day. Yep. And then starting to do that when you're not even achieving that goal. Of course. It's just like, that will change your life drastically. It will. And it's to an extent, there's an element of it that's delusion. Yeah, absolutely. But I said this to Marty Fox, who's a past guest of the show and a good friend of mine now. I said to him the other day, like, delusion is 100% necessary for the ultimate success or growth in life, in my opinion. And even today, I was having a discussion around the law of assumption, and there's kind of two key words. We could talk about the law of assumption all fucking episode, but there's two key words that I want to kind of bring up. First one, impossible. Second one, inevitable. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people know exactly what it is that they want, but they've already made their mind up that it's impossible. And more often than not, that feeling of it being impossible is a reaction to what things look like right now. Yeah. Like almost every single time, that is the case. Yeah. Yet there's also the other element of it where people will then start mapping out what they need to do to make it happen, while at the exact same fucking time thinking it's an impossible outcome. And so it's like you're pushing for this outcome that you do not believe can happen based off what your life looks like at the moment. And so we could go into so much detail about this law of assumption stuff and the whole frequency and all the quantum field and all that shit. But the reality is nothing's impossible. Right? Like, I'm going to go woo-woo for like 2 seconds. No, there's like, I love it. Everything on this planet is energy. We're all energy. We're all frequency. We're all frequency. And so for anything to go from a certain frequency to a materialistic or to a solid form, it just requires us to keep our focus and our energy and our intent on that thing, and it materializes into reality. And so if that is the case, nothing's fucking impossible. Yeah. And so when I said there's two words I want to focus on, impossible and inevitable, when you start to shift your mindset to the fact that whatever it is that you desire is inevitable, then all of a sudden you kind of detach from giving a fuck about what shit looks like right now. Yeah. Actually, you know what? This is a timely one. So if you lose your job, right? Yep. If you lose your job, there's uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen next. There's no evidence that something is happening next. Like, You don't need any certainty whatsoever. But in the back of your mind, you know that it's fucking inevitable that something's going to be next.
Yep, absolutely.
Without actually having any fucking idea of what it is.
It's not like the world's just going to stop.
Yeah, exactly right. It's inevitable that you're going to be eventually doing something else.
Yep.
Anyway, I've completely forgotten the second example, so fuck it. But the point I'm trying to make is we have many examples, or we have so much evidence in our own life of things where there is not one single thing to suggest that the thing we want is about to happen.
Yep.
Right? But there's certain elements of our life where we never question it. We just believe that it's inevitable and it shows up.
Yeah.
Right. And so this applies for anything, whatever it is that you desire in your life, whether it's a career, whether it's a partner, whether it's fucking money, materialistic items, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
When you shift your assumption from the fact that something is impossible because you don't know how it's going to happen, and the thing that doesn't change is you still don't even have to know how it's going to happen. But if you truly believe that it is inevitable, then everything starts to shift for you, right? And to the point where the whole fucking point of this conversation we were talking about just then is that you'll allow yourself to show up to your life now with a level of energy, with a level of intent and certainty and belief that what you want is on its way. Yeah. Even when you have no fucking idea how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen, you don't have to know. And the thing that I followed up this with in this chat earlier today, and I'll follow it up again now, so many of the best things that have happened in my life, or when things have finally materialized into reality, there was not one single fucking thing beforehand that suggested it was about to happen. And so like you have, everyone in this room has all the evidence that we need for it from our own fucking life that it's happened before. So why can't it happen again?
I love it. I think the best thing about that is like how exciting all of that is.
100%.
But also I even have to remind myself, and I'm sure you do as well, you have to remind yourself that like you have to catch yourself and be like, okay, I gotta get back into that mindset. Like sometimes you'll turn into that victim and you'll be like, oh, it's impossible. But then you go, oh shit, no, it's not. It's inevitable. Like it's something you have to train yourself to do. It's certainly not something that comes naturally nowadays.
Yeah, and that is the challenge.
Yeah.
You know, I believe we spoke about this the other week too. Like that is the challenge, but it's also the opportunity.
Yeah.
There is, you know, it's completely valid to feel certain emotions and have certain human experiences that are challenging and potentially whatever, low frequency and negative.
Of course, yeah.
But the thing you have to bring yourself back to is that the external is not ever creating the internal, right? And what I mean by that is that your internal state is always the foundation of what is creating the external.
Yep.
And so, you know, where you place your energy and your focus is exactly what you're starting to create. And I think people have it the opposite way around, where it's like this thing happens and now I feel like this.
It's a reactive mindset.
And when something out there good happens, then I'll feel good.
Yeah.
It's like your current state is creating what happens next.
Yeah.
And so when you catch yourself in a victim mentality, when you catch yourself feeling sorry for yourself, it's not a bad thing. It's like, okay, well, I have every reason or every right to feel this emotion, but once I've felt it, it's now up to me to shift my state.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because as long as I stay like this and as long as I keep looking for reasons to feel like this, I'm fucking going to find them.
At the end of the day, it's also a healthy thing to feel that way at times. Like sometimes you need to feel that way.
Yeah, you don't want to suppress it.
But it's a passing emotion.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about it just before, like you just need to be proactive in how you, I guess, manage yourself rather than being reactive to your external environment a lot of the time. Because you can go down that victim mindset of, oh, poor me, but essentially that's not going to change your life.
No.
Like how often is someone being a victim, how often does that open doors for them?
No, it just attracts more of the same shit.
Exactly.
To allow you to keep feeling the same way.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the new cycle.
Yeah.
And that's tough to get out of when it goes too deep, you know?
Incredibly tough to get out of.
Cooper, I asked you the question earlier in the chat about how you viewed yourself as a person outside of football before, you know, or throughout that process of reaching, the pinnacle of being an AFL footballer, really, or a footballer in Australia in general. What do you value about yourself now? Like the person, like behind all the stuff that you do, like when we have conversations around like self-worth and going kind of internal, like what do you really value about yourself now that maybe you didn't back then?
I wouldn't say like specific things that I value about myself because I'd have to think about that quite a little bit, but I'd say I value interactions with other people a lot more. So that's probably not answering your question,
no, that's okay.
Or coming from a position where empathy for what somebody else is feeling and just sort of not, I feel like I'm going down a path where I can't really answer this question, but.
You're right. So whatever's coming in mind.
I just value conversations with people a lot more now and learning about people. I find that's a really powerful thing is learning about people and where they've come and their stories and what they've been through. It's a lot easier to talk to someone about themselves than it is to talk to them about you. So I think that's something that I value much more. But if I'm going back to me as a person, I've already spoken about it in terms of like my family and all that, and that's sort of like my pillar. And I just value myself as a person in terms of just being a good person. I can't really get this out in the way that I want to because I'd have to think about it a lot, and it probably doesn't make sense to a lot of people listening. But
I think it makes total sense.
I just value being a good person over anything, rather than. I guess I don't even know what rather like. I feel honestly you've thrown me off with this question a little bit, to be fair, but just valuing my interactions with people and not having someone go away from or like a conversation we had and just going, oh, that guy's a bit of a dick. Like that would be the most crippling thing to me if someone came away from like an interaction with me or a chat with me and just went, I actually don't like that guy that much. Like he was arrogant, and I think I value the conversation with people a lot more and how I'm coming off with people, which at times can be a detriment to myself because I go into conversations just wanting people to feel good.
Okay.
And I probably don't open up myself enough when I'm asked to, which is hence why going to see my psych is so important because that's that little relationship where I can just let go there.
Yeah. Bro, look, I'd encourage you to do more of that externally.
Yeah, okay.
And look, the only reason I say this is because of the fact that, what you value and what you want from your interactions is already reality, right? Like we met the other week and I walked away from it and I fucking literally messaged Dice like before I even got to the fucking car going like, holy shit, Cooper was an absolute fucking legend. Is just like catching up with yourself and you're very engaged in conversation. You're very, very present. And I think that's something that is fucking rare first and foremost, right? That's very rare these days. But at the same time, I feel like what I've taken from just our short time kind of knowing each other is that you want to add value to other people's lives in whatever way that comes, whether it's a conversation, whether it's, and I think you're in such a great position now to be able to create so much fulfillment and value for so many people through conversation. Right. And through sharing your experiences. This is the reality of it. Like this, the ironic part of all of this shit. And I think even with this podcast, like there was a point in time where I'm like, yeah, I've got some information to share about training and nutrition and I'll talk to some cool people and whatnot. But like, who's really going to want to listen?
Yeah.
Whereas now I look at every one of those challenging experiences that I've had, no matter what it has to do with, whether it's body composition, whether it's relationship stuff, whether it is personal growth, like whatever, anxiety, all of those things other people are experiencing to some extent, right?
Absolutely.
And if you think back to even your period of time where you're going through all of the adversity of not having that control, of the thing you love most being taken away from you, from feeling like it was such an isolating thing where no one else understands.
Yeah.
There's always someone else that understands. And in that moment right there, what I would encourage you to do is put yourself in the shoes of your fucking self in that period of time of going like imagine if there was, so not even just someone to speak to, imagine if there was a podcast or content or YouTube or fucking whatever, a coach that was just speaking everything, like speaking my language right now, everything that I needed to hear. And they were being open, vulnerable, raw and honest. Imagine how much that would allow me to go and do the same thing.
Yeah.
because I've now kind of been exposed to the fact that like I'm not doing this journey by myself. I think that's the power that you've got is that you've got so much to offer, like so much value to offer, not just talking about that stuff, just life in general, right? But at the same time, like the things that you probably feel most vulnerable about are the things that can create so much value and impact in a positive way for fucking so many people.
Well, I think I've actually, thank you for that. They were very kind words. I really appreciate that. But I think I found that out actually through posting a couple of videos on social media where I remember talking to you about, I posted a couple of videos where I just talk to the camera and just say like, look, I'm fucking lost. I have no idea what life is going to bring. And that's that uncertainty, I guess. And selfishly, I'm not necessarily posting that for other people. I'm posting it because as soon as I post that, it feels like a weight off my shoulders and I feel so much better about myself. But you would be amazed by how many people, and actually you probably wouldn't because you'd understand exactly how powerful this sort of stuff is, but the amount of people that reach out and just say like, mate, I feel the exact same way. Like I needed to hear this. This has made my day. I was going through a really tough time. It is the most fulfilling thing ever. Mm-hmm. Like it is the most incredible feeling. And I'm in a process of trying to figure out how I can help people more because there's so many other people that feel the way that I do 95% of the time. Like like you were saying, everybody goes through that process of like when they're going through the shit, essentially, they get in that main character mode and it's like, I'm the only one that's feeling this. I'm the only one that's ever felt this. It's so wrong. Like anything that you felt, you think about the millions or billions of people on earth, like somebody's going through that exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like literally probably at the exact same time that you're going through it, somebody's going through it. And I guess in the position that I was in where I just spoke to the camera a couple of times, I'm incredibly lucky with the audience that I do have and how much they resonated with some of the stuff that I have said. And after I posted my very first video, it was like, oh shit, like this actually provides some value to people.
Yep.
And I'd love to figure out a way to help more people. And I'm sure we'll talk about it, that's for sure, off this pod as well. But that's probably the one thing that now, if I'm to look into the future, and although there's that uncertainty and I still don't know what I'm doing, I know what makes me feel fulfilled, and it's helping other people. So that's, I guess, you didn't even ask the question, but that's what I'm focusing on.
No, that's great.
Like for the next, I don't know how long, is selfishly getting my fulfillment, but doing it through helping others.
Yep. Yeah. And that's not selfish at all. I think the reason why it's not selfish is because I think it's almost the opposite. Like the most selfless thing that anyone can do is feel the best they can possibly feel about themselves. Yeah.
I think that
internally.
I recently listened to Matthew McConaughey podcast with Joe Rogan. Actually I was listening to it on the way over here, but at the end of the day, everybody lives their life selfishly, because if you going and helping somebody out to make yourself feel better is selfish in a way, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like the word selfish has a negative connotation, but looking out for yourself is the most positive thing you can do.
This is either going to confuse the fuck out of both of us or it's going to make sense.
I'm liking this.
I'm going to say the most selfish thing that anyone can do is to not do the things that allow them to feel the best about themselves.
No, I like that. That's good.
Right?
Yep.
I say this to clients a lot, like just hopefully to fucking simplify whatever I've just tried to say. I say this a lot to parents that I work with when we start. I say that the most selfless thing that they can do is to be able to show up as the best version of themselves.
Yep.
Right? I even say this shit to myself. The most selfish thing that I can do is to not share what I feel like is valuable with the world.
Yep.
Because by me not sharing that, even if it's fucking one person that could have taken some value or complete change their life from something that I've said, like I feel selfish not sharing it.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know, I've just, I don't even know what the fuck I've just said there. I said basically three different things. But hopefully some of that made sense.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
Good,
no,
man.
that's good. That's really good stuff.
What I want to ask you next is, before we wrap up, brother, is what excites you the most? Actually, before I even ask that, I want to say one more thing. Sorry, okay. I feel like I'm just fucking...
No, go. I love it. This has been great. This is awesome.
The uncertainty that feels challenging at sometimes we try and avoid, how I would highly recommend you look at that uncertainty, right, and the unknown.
Yeah. Is
that I'm sure, I feel like you've said this before, I'm sure you're a big believer in that everything happens for a reason, right?
Absolutely, I am.
100%. So if everything happens for a reason, that uncertainty and the unknown is for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. And if we try and lean back into that control of feeling that uncertainty and the unfamiliar with something that is known and is familiar, then we're blocking what's meant to be there.
Yeah.
And then we're always going to be met with resistance, and it's always going to feel like we keep ending back up in the same position because it's like, fuck, I just feel like nothing is aligned, and it's because we're getting in our own way.
Yeah.
And so I think for anyone watching or listening too, it's like embrace the unknown and the uncertainty, like, but also allow for it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we look at it as like, oh, this is breaking my momentum, this is slowing things down, or this is me stagnant. Right. But as long as you're still moving, as long as you're still evolving, like that uncertainty and the unfamiliar is just the fucking landing strip for whatever the fuck's about to land there.
Yeah.
You know, and what's meant to be there will be there. And so when you get out of your own way, sometimes the shit that's meant to be there is far different than what you fucking thought should be there.
Yeah. 100%.
And we need to allow for that. Anyway, back to what I was saying. What are you most excited about over the next 12 months?
It's hard to like even say what I am excited about because of, I guess, the uncertainty.
Yeah.
Like the irony in that question after everything we've been through and not really knowing what's next. I'm just excited I'm excited for the uncertainty because like we were saying, that's when you know something's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to experience the uncomfortability with being uncertain with what's next, which that was so many unwords in one sentence. It's not funny, but that's all I can really put. I don't really have anything that I'm completely locked into or that thing that I can selfishly obsess over.
Yep.
But that's what excites me because I'm still yet to find that. So when I find that, it's going to be incredible, but I don't even know what it is. That's the best bit.
That's the best bit, brother.
Yeah. So that's what I can't wait for.
Incredible, mate. Well, Cooper, super grateful for your time today, man. Very glad that we connected, and thanks for sharing a bit about your story. And I'm really excited for the audience to hear it, man.
No, I appreciate you having me on, Danny, and I appreciate everybody listening. If that made sense, I hope it did.
No, it was awesome, brother. Appreciate you and appreciate everyone who has tuned into the episode. If you've enjoyed this episode today, we'd love for you to grab a screenshot of this, share it on your Instagram story, tag myself, tag Cooper. I'll have the links to his socials in the show notes below, or to send the link to this episode to someone that you care about, someone that you know would take value from today. And we really appreciate you guys tuning in. Look forward to chatting to you in the next episode of the Fitness and Lifestyle Podcast.